While we have a fairly solid idea of where the Left 4 Dead 2 campaigns are set, the Left 4 Dead 1 campaigns are a bit more murky as to where they are located, at least on the surface. You can, however, get fairly specific answers for each campaign, and even where the game as a whole is set. Let's start with the campaigns that are the most upfront with their locations. Death Toll takes place in Riverside. You begin at the Riverside Tunnel leading towards the town, and when you reach the church, you're at the town itself. Blood Harvest takes place in the Allegheny National Forest, something shown at the campsite in the very first chapter. The finale takes place at Evacuation Outpost Echo, which is sometimes referenced in graffiti. No Mercy, and by extension Crash Course, take place in a city named Fairfield. Crash Course outright confirms No Mercy's location through these posters. They show evacuation locations in Fairfield and surrounding Whitney County, with Mercy Hospital right in the middle of Fairfield. To add to this, in the ground floor safe house in Mercy Hospital is this ripped sign. Although hard to read, the full sign says that another local evacuation location is Fairfield Municipal Park. Crash Course is a bit more implied, with Crash Course taking place between No Mercy and Death Toll, and Crash Course containing some road signs pointing towards Riverside. While also still receiving Fairfield evacuation locations, Crash Course is also likely on the edges of Fairfield, between the two towns. Sort of like it is shown on the evacuation maps. Fairfield is also mentioned to be under quarantine in a piece of graffiti in the subway safe house of No Mercy. This also would align with the military barricade seen in Crash Course. Dead Air is the toughest to figure out. It is set in the city of Newburgh, a city mentioned in graffiti in the Caboose safe room in Death Toll, and which you can see on fire across the river from the Death Toll finale. This would coincide with the bombing campaign seen to have taken place in Dead Air itself. How do I make this connection so firmly, though? In the Blood Harvest finale, there's a map of the region. Left 4 Dead 1 has a couple of maps you can find laying around in a couple of campaigns, but this is the only one with enough detail to read. Although still a bit difficult, it not only confirms Dead Air is Newburgh, but also confirms the other locations too. Newburgh is across the river exactly like in the Death Toll finale. Fairfield is right beside Riverside as shown in Crash Course. The Allegheny National Forest has Evacuation Outpost Echo in it, just like in Blood Harvest. Now the question is, which state does the main game take place in? The game is a bit blunt about this. In Crash Course, Francis, upon seeing the Riverside sign, can initiate this conversation with Zoe or Lewis.
Riverside? I hate Canada.
Canada? Francis, we're in Pennsylvania.
Oh my God, I hate Canada so much.
As well, the cars in the game have different versions of the Pennsylvania license plate. The Sacrifice comic also describes Blood Harvest as being in upstate Pennsylvania. On top of this, the Allegheny National Forest from Blood Harvest is a real location in Pennsylvania. That Blood Harvest map also reveals that the river you see in the Death Toll finale and the first Dead Air chapter is a distributary of the Allegheny River. The Allegheny is also a real river in western Pennsylvania that meets the Monongahela River in Pittsburgh to become the Ohio River. Related to the river, in the death toll finale, this conversation can happen.
Hello?
Hello, we're heading to the military outpost upriver. We can come get you in 10 minutes. Arm yourselves for the trip and tell me when to head out.
That safe zone, which is also mentioned on the Blood Harvest map, can be seen on a different map of the continental US. It's in the safe house between the two crash course levels. It shows two working safe zones. One is in southern Louisiana, which would be Left 4 Dead 2. The other is close to the Lake Erie shores of Pennsylvania. Taking into consideration all the information we have on the Allegheny River and its relation to certain locations, all the information we have on Blood Harvest, and the information on the safe zone, we can conclude that the main campaigns of Left 4 Dead 1 take place in this rough area of western central Pennsylvania. A fictionalized version of Butler, Clarion, Venango, and Armstrong counties. Whitney County, mentioned on the Crash Course posters, likely takes the in-universe spot of one of those four. With all of this in place, we can actually roughly track the path the Left 4 Dead 1 survivors take across the lore and the game itself. Zoe mentions in the second Sacrifice comic that the survivors walked out of Philadelphia, meaning they headed westward towards our main region here. After some time, the intro takes place, which leads to No Mercy. The survivors proceed to the hospital in the heart of the city. After being picked up, the helicopter crashes somewhere on the riverside edge of the city. After getting into the van, the survivors end up at the riverside tunnel. They then proceed into the town itself. They are picked up by the Slaters in their boat, but are eventually dumped into Newburgh. Proceeding through Newburgh, they reach a Metro International Airport and get into the C-130. The C-130 crashes, as Francis mentions in the first Sacrifice comic. The survivors then end up in the Allegheny National Forest. They travel through the region before being evacuated at Evacuation Outpost Echo, and then are taken to Millhaven. Everything I just mentioned, though, excludes the Sacrifice campaign. The Sacrifice is different. It takes place in the fictional town of Rayford, Georgia. The name Rayford is seen in a large sign in the finale, as well as a couple of other locations in the connected campaign, The Passing. Georgia is confirmed contextually, as The Passing takes place between Dead Center and Dark Carnival, two campaigns set in Georgia. Graffiti in the Sacrifice builds on this by mentioning Atlanta as a major holdout zone for the military. The Last Stand campaign is odd. While it is fan-made, it is also an official release, based on official content, and had Death Toll and Left 4 Dead 2 permanently edited to allow for it to have plausibly happened. For the sake of being thorough, though, Last Stand is set in an alternate timeline where the survivors opt to take this truck from the Death Toll finale to a different point to escape. It is set in a rural area right near Riverside, just outside the Riverside Park from the Death Toll finale. Despite being this close to Riverside, you can't see Newburgh on the other side of the river.